Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and a bit of a different video today because I'm massively excited and quite nervous about taking our first major step into the undersea cabinet, or 20,000 bricks under the sea as I'm planning on calling it. Yes, because when I announced the idea of my cabinet as being another project I'd run in parallel with the city, thus slowing down its progress majorly, I did think I'd have a name contest, and I got lots of really good suggestions, and I think the winner, which definitely deserves a bedoying, which a couple of people came up with, was 20,000 bricks under the sea. And that was the pun on the film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is very appropriate because that film was, of course, about going deeper and deeper underwater and discovering more and more weird and wonderful lands and sights and creatures and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think that's very appropriate for my multi-level cabinet. So, as you probably gathered from the title of this video, we're going to be applying the backdrop to our cabinet today because it has been printed. It has come back from the printers and it's looking rather fabulous. And essentially, it's basically a huge, great big sticker that's 1.8 meters by 1.2 meters across. And it's probably going to be an absolute nightmare to apply. But before we get on to the actual application, I thought I'd go through a bit of the inspiration for the backdrop and indeed the design process by which it was made. So just to start off generally on my cabinet, the idea was to have a vertical display rather than a typical horizontal Lego display, with all the vertical shelves in a glass cabinet linked together and representing the different layers of the ocean. So we'd be going deeper and deeper into the ocean, from the top level being the surface through the shallower depths with all of the creatures that we're all very familiar with, and then deeper and deeper into areas where, well, we just don't know what we might see. Right to the bottom where goodness knows what might exist in a layer lit up by UV light, which I think could be very interesting as well. So that was the plan. And for the backdrop, I didn't want to do something very true to life. That's kind of like the box art that's on the new range of ocean exploration type sets, because I figured that the detail there was a bit too true to life, a bit too realistic, really. I wanted it to be a lot more, well, Legoized. So as the inspiration I wanted to use, I thought I'd look at the Town Divers sets, which were released between 1997 and 1998. And these have a very different feel indeed, in that they have a very sort of bright sky and a very murky underneath, often with loads of rocks and sea life, fish in the background, all kind of in shadow form, and jellyfish and all sorts of other things. And then the models, the Lego themselves, are sort of in the foreground, in front of it. And I really like this sort of colour scheme and indeed the different sort of shapes and sort of distance and depth that gave, whilst also being very true to Lego itself, in that a lot of the creatures in the background are actually kind of like Lego pieces in a way. So yeah, I think that was a really good feel that I wanted to replicate that would also give me a lot of nostalgia whilst looking at it. After all, I don't want this thing looking like an aquarium when it's finished, that's for sure. Anyway, on to the design process, and here I have to give a massive shout out to Brick Section, who is a subscriber of the channel, and a very wonderful, modest, helpful and professional one at that, who's helped me with all of the different drafts of the backdrop, right from the beginning to the end. And without him, I could not anywhere near have done as well as we have together. So here is our progression of different drafts from beginning to end. Well, we started quite simple, tried out different things, different lighting effects and different colour schemes and things, almost went away a bit from that box art inspiration until coming full circle back to it by a very sort of iterative process. And you'll see that the result has some very severe joins, you might think, between different layers. But remember, those are going to be completely hidden by the glass shelves themselves. So when you have them in place, you won't be able to see that join at all. And when we've got Lego on both sides of the glass itself, kind of bridging across those barriers, I think it will work really well. And as you'll see at the end there, we've started to add in a Lego wreck and a Lego sort of fish and shark and all that, rather than real life equivalents, because we really wanted to bring in those key features from the box art that we loved so much. So that's what Brick Section and I came up with, and I sent to the printer, and now I think it's time to get it done for real. So from the building desk, past some partially done projects, into the undersea cabinet in real life, and wow, it is a big old beast, isn't it? Absolutely huge. I mean, that's great because it's going to look terrific when it's done, but it definitely makes me nervous with the amount of sort of sticky backdrop that I have to apply, hopefully perfectly, in a few moments' time. So yeah, this has been used for storage on all 5 levels as it's currently set up for, which has been really useful, holding all of your PO box packages that you've been sending me and partially done projects and so on. But I've removed those. I've just left in the recently received bonsai tree, which I've built. That's a really good build. Have to get that in the city somewhere. I've got my polar bear from Polar Bricks and a few things that are going to stay in the cabinet. So that is a good start. Yeah, so what I really need to do now is remove the final bits that are in there, remove those glass shelves very carefully and prop them up somewhere safe, and then probably give the cabinet a bit of a clean before I start the application itself. Ooh, here goes. Alright, so there's the cabinet with the shelves taken out. And that was harder than I expected, as everything has been with this huge cabinet so far. Because of the distance they have to sort of span, and the fact that they need to potentially hold quite a lot of weight, they're incredibly thick glass, so that makes them really, really heavy. So I was very careful in lifting them out because I didn't want to smash one. Though having said that, if I had lost one, it wouldn't have been the end of the world because I'm only putting 3 of the 4 that I've taken out back in. I'm going to put the 4th one right on the bottom there, kind of to store it out of the way, just because I only need 3 shelves for 4 levels, of course. And there's been one disappointment in the fact that I thought the lights that go all up the sides were adjustable as per the shelves, but they're not because, well, the cable that powers them isn't long enough, essentially. It doesn't have any slack. I assumed it would have a lot of slack sort of built into the cabinet, but it doesn't. So they're pretty much fixed. Now, I've checked my plans, and I don't think that really ruins anything, but they just won't be as optimally placed when we've got all the shelves back in their new positions. So yeah, that's a bit of a disappointment, but not too tragic as it turns out. So the next thing is, dun dun dun, to get my roll of sticky backdrop out and have a good look at that. And that is the sort of island breaching the water level into the sky. You can just see there. Because I have window leaned all of that back glass to make it squeaky clean so we can get a really good connection. Awesome! Right, are you ready for your first view of our unrolled backdrop? Dun dun dun! There we go. Looking good, I reckon. So we've got the first level, obviously above the water, up there. Then the really, really most interesting one being the main level. And then I haven't unrolled it absolutely all because we're going into the sort of murky greeny level there, and then below that jet black anyway. So yeah, if I just lean over here, you can see the birds. Whoop, going massively out of focus there, and the island, and then down into the interesting rocks with the Lego fish, the Lego, well, not so much Lego squid or octopus, but the Lego weeds down there, and the wonderful shipwreck in all that murk in the distance, and the sort of sun's rays sort of coming through the sea at all different angles. Hopefully you can see that just there, for example. Looking great. And then all dappled light on the sand. Now those lines, as I say, will look very severe when it's kind of like this, but when you've got a sheet of glass there, the transition should be a lot smoother. So I don't think that'll be a problem. Wow, looking good. I'm really looking forward to putting this in, but I'm also dreading it quite a lot. Wish me luck. Well, it's going quite well. Lots of air bubbles. It's kind of like the biggest phone screen protector you've ever done in your entire life. And Mrs. Hood and I'm powering through it. I really couldn't be doing this on my own. It would be an absolute disaster. Yeah, halfway at least. Good, good. It is in. Finished. Reaching all 4 corners, so we didn't do it at a jaunty angle, which is a relief. No gaps around the outside. No excess. There are some imperfections here and there, little air bubbles or scratches from when we sort of squeegeed out the air bubbles, but definitely from this distance, which sometimes my camera has a trouble focusing on, it looks absolutely amazing. And one thing that's really important is that it's not very reflective now it's in position, because we had all sorts of reflections going on from before. And that's why I stuck the image onto the inside of the cabinet, which was certainly a lot more difficult to do than putting it on the outside of the glass on the back, because you can kind of flip the image onto a mirror, so the sticky side is the image side. But that would have had the problem of us still having the glass in between the image and our eyes, and that would have been reflective. So yeah, I'm really liking that. So we've both got bad backs from sort of being at odd angles, holding and supporting the weight of this when we were putting it in, especially when it was at the top, because we had to get both of the top corners aligned, and then it wouldn't want to stay there when we tried to do the next bit and so on. So it was quite tricky, but we were getting quite professional by the middle, and then the bottom also was quite hard. So I think the most air bubbles are right down the bottom, but you can't really see them. You can probably just see a couple there towards the left. But I can pop those with a needle point or a knife and sort of squeeze out the air. And also, to be honest, those bottom sections will be largely covered by bricks, so it really won't matter. Right, so let's have a closer look. Okay, so starting at level 1, with the sea going to the horizon, where it meets the sky with these birds in, all looking very nice. And there the island on that side, which is a tip of this rocky outcrop here, and into the murk of the undersea. And I really like the different grades of sort of lighting on here, with those sunbeams sort of beaming through the real murk and texture of that sea there. And there's our first shoal of Lego fish. Very small because they're in the distance. And the rock continuing down, where there is an octopus going about his merry way. And through the sunbeams a bit further up, a jellyfish. Very nice. Before the wreck, which is an absolutely awesome feature. Now I may do a brick-built wreck as well. Maybe this is sort of Bermuda Triangle area and there's more than one. But I thought it was really good to have kind of a focal point in the distance of the background. So having an old galleon wreck is very good indeed. And obviously that's a Lego wreck as well, rather than the sort of real life one. Before we get to a Lego shark over here in perspective. And another one, another shoal of Lego fish. So yeah, I really like these rocky shapes. And we've got some sort of caves and all of the seaweed pieces that we'll be using for real in front of all this. And then the sand also in sort of really nice texture with the shadows and all that, and the sunlight hitting it. Brilliant. And that should sort of seamlessly link up with some tan plates that will be in front of that. So yeah, wow, look at that. And then the layer below, it's quite hard for the camera to pick it up actually, because it is quite subtle, all of this sort of green murk. But when I go in, you can see that it's all still there. It's quite dusty at the moment. Seems to have attracted a lot of dust since we did it. But I can give it a dust and sort that out. But the main bits you're really going to be focused on are those two. And doesn't that look fantastic? I think it looks really good. But do tell me what you think. All right, so first glass shelf in, and it's on the boundary. So we can very much go under the waves or over the waves. And we've got that wonderful transition. These little clips that hold the shelf from beneath and from above are really quite annoying when you're applying the backdrop, because they get in the way wherever they are. They are movable, but they're a bit sort of stiff and annoying. And wherever they are, they just really interfere with that smooth application. But nonetheless, looking pretty good there. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, very nice. So you see what I mean? You can't see the transition at all now the glass is in place. That sort of dark line is the glass itself. So yeah, there's no boundary on that backdrop at all. Focusing may be a problem, as we're currently experiencing, until we get a bit more Lego in there. But I have added the sailboat from the Sailboat Adventures set here just to be the first thing in the cabinet with the backdrop, and it's looking pretty good. But it doesn't have any element that's sort of crossing the boundary into the undersea yet. And that's because I haven't added a keel to it, which is the sort of bit that keeps it all stable. And I've put a pair of very small magnets in there, attached them with super glue or craggle. And that just means that if we look from above, I can kind of find where the other two are on the underside of the boat. And then we've got that wonderful transition of seeing one model on both sides of the glass at once. I mean, look at that. That looks absolutely great. That's the fish eye view from underneath. And indeed, from above, we can see the keel as well. As long as the contrast is right, I think you can see that. And even a reflection of the boat in the waves. Wow. Yeah, that looks absolutely great. So I think I'll be doing that a lot throughout. Lots of things that cross from one layer to the other. And definitely from that perspective, you can't really see the glass at all, can you? Looks great. Cool. Well, I could add the oil rig here, but I'm not going to yet, just because, well, I think it's going to interfere with adding the other shelves. So I'll probably get on with that. Oh, this is hard work. Right, well, 3 shelves in. 1, 2, and the one right at the very bottom that's kind of in storage. Done. One more to go in there, but my back's pretty much given up now after all this bending and so on, so I'm going to take a break and probably do that outside the video, but it doesn't really matter because that is just separating 2 areas of black. We've got the main area, which I wanted to be the deepest and the largest, because originally the shelves were all equidistant, but this one is definitely the biggest area now because it's going to have the most sort of goings on happening in it. And just for now, I've put in a submarine just on the glass, but I'll probably have that cruising all over the place, to be honest, amongst many others. And I've added in our oil rig that we did on a previous video. And I thought I'd do this bit on camera because this is the fun bit where we attach the magnet for the oil pipe, which is now dangling in midair rather than making it all the way down. I'll have to extend that. And then the sets of legs as well. Oh, the underwater floats, all attached with magnets. This time without super glue, just held in with bricks. So there we are. There is our oil rig above and from below. I think that's my favourite view, looking at all these things from underneath. And that keel is absolutely perfect. So yeah, there we go. I think I'm going to call it a day there for the video at least. Come back to that this evening, add that last shelf and get it all cleaned and so on. But yeah, it's looking pretty good, isn't it? You've got to admit that shipwreck in the distance, just wow, really gives you a focal point. Now, we'll be building all sorts of stuff on each of these shelves, so it might be that most of this backdrop is covered up in due course, but you know what? It looks very bright and interesting and really is quite nostalgic for those original Town Divers sets, and that's what I was going for. So I think in a way that is mission accomplished. So I just need to give a massive thanks out again to Brick Section, who helped me design this backdrop. He did most of the work, all the hard stuff that I don't understand. I was just the one moving things around and giving instructions. And a massive thanks to Mrs. Hood, without whom I would never have got this up looking anywhere near as this good. Yeah, massive thanks to them. And a final shout out, I suppose, to my Patreon supporters and my members of my channel who paid for the thing. Thanks very much. But yeah, definitely worth it. I think you'll agree. Cool. So I don't know how long this video will be when it's all edited together, but it does definitely represent a great deal of time in real life putting all this together. Don't know how interesting it will be either, but you must admit that the net effect is well worth it. So that's the main thing. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks will be a brick haul. It'll be one of the packages I've been buying from bricklink.com. But if you do want to send me something, then you can to the usual address. And then on Friday, I don't know what we'd do. We might have to go to the fairground. Oh no, we're doing the Japanese restaurant, aren't we? The sushi restaurant, part two. Yeah, so that'll be really good. Got some really good feedback from that as well from part one. So yeah, looking forward to that as well. So until then, see you